I'm Representative Jason Ortitay. Today we'll be talking with a lot of different people from the law enforcement community. With me right now I have Washington County District Attorney Gene Vittone. Gene, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for inviting me, Representative.
Over the last few years, even since I've been out of high school, particularly in this area, there has been an increasing drug problem. There's been a substance abuse issue as well. I'd just like to get your thoughts on how we're tackling that problem.
Well, it is a big problem in Washington County. I've been with the District Attorney's Office for about 16 years now. And traditionally what we saw was a problem with cocaine, and some marijuana, and early on in my career some amphetamines. But lately the biggest problem that's happening in Washington County has been heroin. I was a paramedic for a number of years, handled thousands of ambulance calls. We never had a fatal accidental overdose that I ever handled. But when I came into office in 2012, I noticed from Coroner Warco's report that we had 42 overdose deaths in 2011. That's new. That's a big problem. It's not just the overdose deaths, it's the ER visits. And obviously what concerns me is the crime that's related to the need to acquire heroin. So we're working on addressing the problem right now, and obviously we can do it through investigation and prosecution of the drug offenders, but the larger issue is what do you do with the folks that do end up getting enmeshed in the criminal justice system? And that's something we've been working on.
Gene, could you talk to us more about the drug task force that you've formed?
Yeah, we have a county-wide drug task force. It's composed of a director who's an individual that's had many years of working in undercover drug operations, and we utilize municipal police departments from the various departments throughout the county that are interested in doing that type of work. It works out really well because it gives those individuals that are participating an opportunity to learn from our director, Rick Luth, and also to initiate their own operations. We're the largest undercover drug operation in Washington County. We've emphasized lately going county-wide with our investigations, and we've had numerous drug arrests and search warrants served in the city of Washington, down in the valley, over in Burgettstown, and just recently we were able to arrest an individual with 65 bricks of heroin. That's about $30,000 worth of heroin in McDonald. So it's working out very well, but that's only one part of the puzzle.
Right, and just to kind of give us a number of how big this has been, would you be able to give us a number on how much money and drugs that you say you've been able to collect since you've been in office?
Overall, as far as drugs, I don't have those figures figures right at my fingertips. But I can tell you the cases that we're generating, we're up about 1,000 cases in the last 7 years, primarily due to heroin and prescription drugs. And I recently just did a statistical analysis of the criminal complaints to see what drugs are being used by our criminal offenders. And what surprised me was about 1/3 of our cases are as a result of alcohol misuse, but the other 1/3 is roughly, it's heroin and it's prescription drugs, which is essentially, the prescription drugs are essentially pharmaceutical grade opiates that are similar to heroin, and that's why people get hooked.
Now, we all know that drugs never really stay within county lines or in state lines or even international lines.
Sure.
How are you working with state, local, and even federal agencies to help with this?
Well, one of the things that was really good is that the director who's in charge of my task force now has a good reputation in the law enforcement community, and as does my chief county detective, Jim McElhaney. So we've been able to develop relationships with Brooke County, with West Virginia agencies to handle the Panhandle and also the northwestern part of Washington County. But we've also a relationship that I've really grown to enjoy, and I'm really happy that we have, is with the United States Attorney David Hickton. He's willing to offer us assistance. In fact, he just designated one of my assistant district attorneys a special assistant U.S. attorney so that we can take more violent felons federal as opposed to state, because the sentences are so much more severe in federal court. So the hope is that you get the dangerous guys out of the area, you get them incarcerated for a long period of time, and you decrease the amount of violent crime associated with drugs.
Well, while we're talking about that, what are some of the successes you've had? I know we talked about a couple of the local issues where you found the 65 bricks, but let's build upon that. Tell me a little bit more about the successes of this.
Well, we've had a lot of success in investigation and prosecution. We've made significant inroads into the valley with heroin distribution, but I also would be remiss if I didn't talk about what we're doing with offenders, because the bulk of the offenders that we're seeing out of the 3,300 cases, they're nonviolent. They're addicts. They have a drug problem and it needs to be addressed. And we simply can't incarcerate ourselves out of this problem. It just costs too much money to incarcerate people, and we don't have the space to put these people. Plus, it's counterproductive. What they need is they need to get into treatment and real rehabilitation so that hopefully they can become productive members of society again. So we've been working on diversion programs. We have one of the first drug courts in the state of Pennsylvania. We established it in 2005. Recently, we've just started working on a diversion program at the magistrate level so that nonviolent drug offenders can hook up with the Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission and get into treatment. And we put them on a strict program of community work service, drug testing, and attending treatment so that they can address their problem. And we take them at their word, because they all want to reform when they're in front of a magistrate and they're charged with a crime. So we take them up at their word and we say, okay, show us. And if they're able to show us, then they get a break. If they can't, then we have to do something else, and we get a little bit deeper into our system.
Now, we're almost at the end of our time here, but
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, we've talked about what the problems are and some of the things that we have in place, but what would you like to see done at the state level to help combat some of this drug abuse in our state?
Well, one of the big issues talking to the treatment providers is that you need to have the funding available to provide treatment. Incarceration right now is costing anywhere, the figure I keep hearing for state is about $40,000 per inmate. I think at the county level it's about $24,000 a year to incarcerate somebody. People do need to have access to treatment. One of the drugs they're seeing now that works really well is called Vivitrol. And that drug is extremely expensive, but it does work as a good opiate blocker, and they've had good success with it. So heroin addiction treatment is a very involved process. It takes a lot of time and money, and that's one thing that we're going to have to find a way to address.
Well, Gene, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us today.
No problem, Jason. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing more good things out of your office.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Gene.
Jason.
I appreciate it.